to Soul Therapy Anointed Radio. I'm your host, Harry Coast, and you'll be with me in this hour as we journey through soul therapy together.
My mind is a racing car, I know it'll crash. My heart is a sinking ship waiting to splash. Therapy, you're my remedy. Let me break what I ache into pieces. Oh, therapy, you're my remedy. When it feels all so real, you're my lifeline. Oh, therapy, you're my remedy. Won't you give me peace of mind?
Hello, my friends, and welcome back to Soul Therapy, a program on the Luke 418 radio station, the leading cutting edge of Christian radio worldwide on the internet. We welcome you. I'm your host, Carrie Coast, and I'm with you on this journey to bless your path. What do we do here? We point you to Jesus because he is everything. So we're going to start this show with someone we're both going to get to know, my brother in Christ, and we call him Craig, a.k.a. Papa Bear. Hey, Craig, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, Papa Bear. How'd you get the name Papa Bear? Tell us.
Well, there's a story. When I was living out in New Mexico, the air was very thin there because it's at about 8,000 feet elevation.
And you were in the northern part?
Yeah, the Four Corners, part of the Four Corners. We were real close to Colorado. You could see the Rockies from our backyard. We were really in a very high altitude, and I have come from the flatlands of Illinois. Yeah.
Big difference.
So, yeah, there was a big difference, and I had to get used to the air, and I fell asleep. The thin air just made me tired. I snored loud, and I snored so loud they could hear me from one end of the house to the other. And so my stepsons, they said, "You sound like a bear." When I was snoring, started calling me Papa Bear, and it became an endearing thing. And then it just kind of stuck, and they've been calling me that ever since. And so I use that, as my call name in my podcast show.
Tell us about the podcast.
Well, way back when I first started doing anything, I was a shy kid. I didn't really like getting in front of people. I got real nervous about that stuff. A few people broke me of that. One of them was my voice lesson teacher when I was learning to sing.
Oh.
And the other was my mother. My mother, she actually signed me up for an audition and told me about it afterwards.
That's a big trick.
Audition for a play. And so I said, what?
I would never want to do that. Wow.
I wasn't sure what was going to happen with that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
Go ahead.
And how old were you at that time?
I was a junior in high school.
Very
it was in the summer.
Self-conscious time, yeah.
The name of the drama group was called Grease Paint and Spotlights. I auditioned, I got a part. I played this cowboy, a singing cowboy.
Oh, okay.
in a play called Pistol Pack and Sal. That's how I got my start on stage.
Okay.
Pistol Pack and Sal. Then I went on to do No, A Million Times No with the same group. And then I auditioned for a play, Camelot, got into that and got a bigger role. I had small roles, and then I got into bigger roles. I was an actual supporting actor in the comic relief in the tragic story of Camelot. Well, when I was in Camelot, I actually got nominated for Best Supporting Actor in that role that year. And it was the same year, junior year. Things kind of, went really fast for me. So my speech teacher that I ended up having named Miss Gibbs, she saw me up on stage and she wanted me in her speech class, and she told somebody that. And so all of a sudden it got to me, and I said, yeah, sure, I'll do it. And she was an eccentric lady, but she really knew her stuff. And so she got me in her speech class. I learned things about presentation and things like that. Now, I was already kind of a natural at it because I was on stage, and actually memorize, lines, did all those things. So I was very good at presentation. And that's probably why she wanted me in her speech class.
Oh, okay.
So she
saw
got
those
me into
gifts
radio.
and strengths, and she drew you in, and then you got onto radio, and here we are.
Yeah, I got into radio.
There's more, isn't there?
Yeah, and then as time went on, I got into a band. Now, how this connects is because I love music. I play guitar. I play a few guitars. I play anything that I can get my hands on. I try to play. And it's because I have perfect pitch. Now, I love music, sing, and I play, and I enjoy it.
Yeah.
So why this works into my podcast is because not only do I interview actors, I also interview musicians. And I always got to know musicians. My interest, I'm one of those people that delve into every detail of who's behind the album, who produced the album, who played on the album. Okay. I had to know everything. And I would read all the, the liner notes that are inside of a CD or a record at that time. And I always do that. And that's because I try to find out who put this together. And I could always tell who put it together because there's a certain style that person had. So I educated myself. The way I use my music is to educate myself in the music. And I said, how can I use this? I'm always knowing all this stuff. And same with acting. Whether it's a TV show like The Waltons or something like that, I find out about the characters. I find out who produced it, who wrote the show. And so then the next thing I know, I'm like, what do I do with all this information, right?
Right.
Well,
you've got all this expertise for something.
You're right. It ended up coming around to this podcast show because I started with an actor, producer, writer, Michael McGreevy, and he was in the Waltons playing Hobie Shanks, the character that was in one of the Waltons episodes. And so I interviewed him. He was my break into the podcast show type business here. Okay. And so when I did it, I was a little rusty. It just because I was first starting, like, okay, I got to do this. I was nervous about this and that. I got through it though, and he complimented me, which was nice that he did that. But I will tell you that I probably have improved since then.
Okay.
Since I've gone on, I've gotten more comfortable with it, and I do know my music knowledge. And whenever I've been talking to these artists or actors, they go, yes, yeah. In other words, I'm hitting it right in the nail right on the head. Whenever I'm talking about the information,
because you have been thorough in your research.
Right. I've been thorough in my research, and that really helps me. So when I do podcasting, I'm not just some guy asking questions as a fan. It's one thing to be a fan. It's another thing just to be studied and know who these people are. And then I also use it for a number of reasons. I would say it's a springboard for sharing the gospel at times when I can. Mm-hmm. Not with everybody, because Michael McGreevy and a few others, they aren't necessarily in the Christian realm. But what I do is when I get a Christian artist or an actress or actor, I really go we talk about the Lord. I bring it up. We talk about it.
Okay.
I've had great conversations with some of these artists, and it's really been wonderful because there are a lot of what I call non-Christians out there listening to it, and they're going, "What's this?"
You have a lot of listeners who are non-Christians.
Yeah, and the only way I know that is because I have a Facebook page, and it's a Papa Bear Facebook page, and I post all of these things on my Facebook pages as well as all these other fan pages, music fan pages, and what I do is get it out into social media as much as possible. And not always is everybody on all those social pages Christian. So they hear that, and I get a lot of likes, and people are wondering who the person is, and I explain who they are. It's also been a great thing for me to help promote some new artists. I've had some new artists come on there, and I definitely promote their music. And it really gets it out there for people to hear and say, "Oh yeah, that is good,"
Well, so on that note, then,
So that's it.
Craig, on that note, this may be something that you
Mm-hmm.
want to give a connection for anyone who's listening, who's an interested musical artist. Is there a
Mm-hmm.
way that they can become a part of this? Is there anything you want to share about that?
Yeah, if you're out there and you're new as an artist, you're really trying to get known. I'm having bands come to me, which is good. They see my stuff on my Facebook page and immediately shoot me an email or a message in Messenger. If you hit me up at my Craig Bland, which is my regular Facebook page, and it'll say in parentheses Papa Bear. If you go there, message me in a messenger or anything like that, I'll look at your stuff and I'll definitely get you on my show.
Let's give your name spelling for that then. So CRAIG, and then B as in boy.
And then the
L-A,
last name is BLANN.
2 N. Okay. Craig
And
Bland.
you go there, and then the other way that you can reach me is through email. My email is CG, and that's for Craig George, CG BLAN and 2 N's. That's CGBLANN 55 at gmail.com. I will read it and
Wonderful.
I'll see what you got.
Wonderful. So that's amazing. So your platform is addressing in one sentence.
One sentence. My platform is representing new artists. It is a springboard for sharing the gospel. It came out of a lot of dark times for me too. Any of the stuff that I've been doing, whether it's drama, and I told you my mother signed me up and everything, I was always struggling at certain points. I struggled as a teenager. I struggled as a rock musician. I was a rock musician. I was a lead vocalist. We were struggling at times. Now, we were Christian rock artists, but we were struggling in our lives and in our spiritual lives and everything. We were just going through a lot. Each thing was a struggle for me. I went through depression and up and down in my emotions, the way I felt. Sometimes I wasn't sure if God was even there.
Wow.
Yeah, and I felt hopeless at times, but God always came in and lifted me out of that. And that's one of the things that I can say. There's always a happy ending with the Lord, especially if you're one of His.
That's well said.
Matter of fact, I think it says here in Scripture, 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verse 4, but you brothers and sisters are not in darkness so that this day should surprise you like a thief. You are all children of the light and children of the day. We do not belong to the night or to the darkness. So let us not be like others who are asleep, but let us be awake and sober.
Yeah.
So those are, the Lord has to remind me of those things, I believe. And the other verse that I love, which I got from the show, The Chosen. We did a Bible study on The Chosen in our church. It was the memory verse was, when you pass through the waters, I will be with you, and the rivers will not overwhelm you.
Isaiah 43.
When you walk through the fire, you will not be scorched, and the flame will not burn you. Yes, Isaiah 43:2. Those are good things to remember.
Read that one again, please. That's
okay.
A great verse.
Yeah. Here we go. It says, when you pass through the waters, I will be with you, and the rivers will not overwhelm you. When you walk through the fire, you will not be scorched, and the flame will not burn you.
Amen. Amen.
The child of God, He takes care of us.
He sure does. That's a beautiful one.
Yeah. So that's why I mentioned that just for your listeners out there. Believe me, as Christians, if people think we don't go through trials and tribulations and struggles, they get another thing coming, because you do.
Yeah, it just comes with being a human being, because the enemy is the enemy of human beings.
Exactly. Yeah. As long as there's sin in the world and Satan out there, he's going to cause the trouble with you. I also had served, which I didn't tell you this. This is where my discipline comes from. I served in the United States Marine Corps in 1986 to 1991.
Wow. Semper Fi.
Thank you.
You're welcome. We always faithful, and so
yes,
thank you for serving.
That's absolutely true. I learned a lot of Christian things in the Marine Corps, interestingly enough, with the way that we do things and the way that our chain of command is, and all those things. I could put spiritual, I'm serious, analogies to anything we were doing, which really helped me throughout life. I got to be honest. I thought back and I said, one of the things that the Marines taught me was that in life is a struggle. I mean, we had times that I was walking on a hump, which we call a long walk. We were walking 30 miles, and I had shin splints on both my shins.
Wow.
I was in pain with every step I took.
But you had to keep moving forward. Yeah, you had to keep moving forward in that pain.
I had to keep taking a step with that pain, and it hurt. It felt like somebody was whacking me in the shins.
Wow.
But I kept walking and walking, and I drank the water I needed to drink. I did the things that I needed to do to get myself better, okay? And by the time that walk was over, I don't know when the shin splints stopped, but they stopped. All of a sudden, it just stopped. They weren't there anymore. And I had just accomplished walking 30 miles in 8 hours, and I said, whoa. Never did that before.
That's a lot of, that is a lot of sore muscles. Walking, crawling, running, it's a big effort, and that's wonderful. So that was something you had to do in the U.S. Marines, and it is wonderful because you made it. It was victory.
Right, and it taught me that along life's walks like that, you're going to have hard walks, and you're going to have shin splints. In other words, you're going to have something that's really bothering you, like a thorn in your side. And what I did was I got mad at the pain. I just went, I gritted my teeth and just pushed myself. And I think that's what made it go away. So I got mad at it.
Well, pain is a spirit.
That's it.
And we can command it to go away. That's true.
Mm-hmm.
But that's quite a discipline, as you said, to decide this. And I think a lot of people would gain from this. You talked about how, as most, if not everybody, as most people do in younger years, you've experienced a lot of things, made a certain amount of mistakes, but mistake or not, you encountered many kinds of pains that I will say, borrowing from a verse but not applying it the same way, a verse out of Corinthians about there's no temptation, but no pain such as is common to man. I will I will borrow from that verse to switch it up from temptation to pain, as is common to man. And I know that in the work that I do that is mental health based, we have so much of anxiety, we have depression, we have grief, we have fear, we have terror, we have nightmares, we have physical pain, we have mood disorders. These things are common, not meaning that everybody has them at all times, but human beings will experience them. And you've said that you have yourself had a lot of this. Mm-hmm. I think you talked about that darkness, the very, very dark times that you've had in your life. What would you want to say about that with this audience?
Well, I can tell you that I went through times of deep, dark depression. I just let myself go. I remember my parents even worried about me.
Yes.
I went through, my first marriage ended in a nasty divorce. And I had two sons. And they were just boys. They're small boys. I mean, my youngest, I think, was 2 going on, or he might have been 3. He was 3, and my others was 6 or something like that. And they were still boys, young boys, and it was tearing me up. Because I got to tell you, I was a family man. I love my sons, and I wanted to be with them all the time. I mean, I was there through most of their small childhood, And I would say that what was tearing me up was being torn from them, not necessarily the other situation with her, but what was tearing me apart was being torn from my sons. Mm-hmm. I was there every day with them. I played with them. I took did dad things with them, both my boys. It was just really killing me inside. I just asked God to take me. I really told him, just take me home. I don't want to be here.
It was too hard to be a father separated from those sons.
Yeah. I loved them. But that's what kept me going. I got to tell you. Suicide, okay, even if it might have been slightly contemplated, it went away because of my sons. I loved my sons so much. I would never, ever do that to my sons. I think God gave them as a gift to me.
Yeah, so they were at the same time part of what made the suffering so intense, and yet they were also the reward or motivation to press through it.
Yes. Yes. The Lord pulled me out of it. Well, one of the ways he pulled me out of that was interesting. I was going to counseling. Hey, I really was counseled by a Christian counselor because I didn't know how to deal with the way I was feeling, the depression and all that.
Right.
But he looked at me and he said, "What do you love to do? Is there something that you like to do that is a gift of yours? Okay. Something that you find joy in. Okay." I started thinking about it. I said, well, for Halloween, I put myself in clown makeup, and somebody said I really looked good in it. Okay, that sounds funny, but but then I started realizing, and so I did this, and I went to a clown conference. I'm serious. I did the whole 9 yards. I bought clown shoes. At the big feet, I got the makeup. I became a hobo clown named Klutzy the clown.
Okay.
I created this makeup. I had a wig. Okay. I had the whole 9 yards. I looked like a hobo clown. And I went to a clown conference. When I went to that clown conference, one of those most famous clowns, I wasn't familiar with him, but he was from England. And he was he actually made it into the Clown Hall of Fame. That is an actual thing, believe it or not. But he made it into the Clown Hall of Fame, and he looked at me, and I had no idea who he was. He was English, and he said, "I love how you did your makeup." and I looked at him like, "What? Who is this?" And they said, "Do you know who that was?" And I couldn't remember his name today. But what they told me was he's this most famous clown telling me I had done my makeup beautifully.
Oh, that's
okay.
That's a big compliment.
Yeah, it was a big, huge compliment. and then I got a friend of a guy who is a Christian who does clowning and magician type stuff, or illusionist, as he puts it. Okay, as an illusionist. And he's actually very funny. He does comedic kind of, illusion, because he uses the audience and everything. And he took me under his wing, and this guy was a Christian, and he uses it as a ministry. But he took me under his wing, taught me things, taught me illusions, taught me how to do presentation. So I got to know all these clowns.
You were hanging out with clowns. You had a whole new arena in life that opened up, and from that you started finding out some strengths that you had. All of this was how you coped. And so there's a lot that people can glean from this, and I'm sure you share a lot of that in your podcast, right?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I like to tell people is all of us struggle with things, but God always pulls us out of those things. Like the clowning thing, it's God's timing. God just worked it out that I could meet these people, be encouraged by these people. But when I look back on it now, I didn't see it maybe at that point. God rescued me and has rescued me and rescued me over and over and over again. It's not just one time. He does it all the time.
He does it over and over. Yeah.
Yeah.
The verse that says his mercies are fresh every day. I mean, even while we're sleeping, he's doing this. Yes. That's a beautiful thing for you to share. Thank you. Wow. So you had this amazing encouragement, and it doesn't have to be a whole lot. This one person, and it had a lot of magnitude for you. And you found this arena, and I love how art forms do that.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a specific area of expressive art, right? And so,
right.
I'm sure that you have giftings in many areas of expressive art. You already talked about music, so there's a big role
and
in
acting.
This
I've done acting. I've done dancing. I had fun.
You write music, you play music. Have you just fallen into it naturally? Had the aptitude?
Well, I will say this: my father was a trumpet player back in his high school years, back in the 1950s. My dad played trumpet, and he sang in a group. I remember he showed us pictures of himself in the Air Force, and he was one of the three men. And he was a bass, by the way. He sang bass. But they were singing harmony behind this young woman. I don't know who she was, but they were singing in for the Air Force, I'm sure, while they were in there.
Wow.
But
That's an honor.
He kept on singing. I sang with him when I was a kid. I grew up in music. I've gone to concerts after concerts. I went to Bill Gaither type things. As a kid, I went to Bill Gaither, listening to him and his wife, Gloria, and all these artists over the years. So I knew the Gaithers. I knew music. But, of course, my music style changed as I got older.
Now, the Gaithers are gospel, and so that's one genre, and you like all of them.
That I love everything.
You love everything.
Yeah, I love everything from Southern gospel to rock. Okay, because there was a point in my life when I was rebellious, and I was rebellious, and I would say it was in the Marine Corps. I went crazy, and everybody, doesn't understand this until you've been in the military. But it was really hard as being a Christian within that environment. It doesn't mean that you can't be, because eventually I did. Okay, get my life straight. But initially, when I got in there, I fell pretty hard. Because I grew up in a Christian home. I never experienced the world. And then the world came at me, and I wanted it all. Because I never had it.
In a protective bubble?
Yeah, I was in a protective bubble. I did not know what I knew until I got there. And when I had that freedom, I took that completely and said, yes, I could do whatever I want. Nobody has to know about this. Except that I didn't realize God knew about it.
Right.
But still.
There is nothing hidden from him. Mark 4:22.
Right. And I got into rock music, but I got into secular first. And I would play that stuff, headbanging stuff, and I go crazy. Then these Christian bands came out, Christian rock, and even Christian metal. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to be interviewing a guy who's leads and was a founder of a Christian metal band named Stryper, and his name's Michael Sweet.
Okay, I remember that.
Michael Sweet is he's a believer. He's going to be on my show. Okay, for anybody out there who wants to watch it.
Michael, hi.
Yeah, Michael Sweet. Hey, he'll be on the show, and I followed them for years. But what was good is it got me out of the bad stuff, the stuff that had bad lyrics, just were promoting party and living a life of terrible things. You know what I'm saying? Satan-led type life. Okay. When I started catching on to them, that got me away from that stuff, is all I'm saying. But do I listen to everything? Absolutely. I will tell you how I sing. I don't sing like rock music. It's really funny. Is when I sing with my guitar, I'm a folk singer. My vocals, and my voice lesson teacher told me this, fall in the line of sounding like a folk singer. I grew up on John Denver, Taylor.
James Taylor?
Yeah. And that's where I was in folk world. My voice, I can naturally sing that. So I stick to that. And that's what I do when I sing. If anybody asks me to sing, I'm not screaming my lungs out. I'm actually singing beautiful songs. And you like rock music? Yeah, sure. As long as the message is good. But I'm just saying, I like my folk music. If you're going to say, where do I fall in that category? That's where I'm at. I'm a folk singer in Christian music.
Okay, so that's your natural page to be on. Music as a genre, it's neutral. Our station founder, Bill French, is an advocate of rock, but he likes to say that Jesus is his rock, and that's how we roll. A shout out to Bill while we're here.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of this stuff, like I said, it took me from dark places again. And, we were talking about that, and took me to finding out there's something else. There's something else, and I can listen to this, and it'll be okay. So the Lord always, like I said, comes in, rescues you, saves you from yourself.
Right? That's our soul, and we need to be more about our spirit. So you're talking about the way that you were able to use art forms to express more out of your spirit and deal with the soul.
Yeah. I will say that one of the things I've always done, and whether it's been in music or anything that I get involved in, especially music for some reason, I play Native American flute as well. My wife is Navajo. As a matter of fact, that's how we met, because I play Native American flute, and we just kind of linked up and had the same interest. And definitely I had an interest in Native American culture. When I do this music, I get lost in that music. And people don't understand that, but unless you're a musician, I really just will play and I'll just be in the presence of God. It's all to Him. There's nothing else. Okay.
Yes. And it's very emotional too,
that.
Isn't it? It's very strong.
Yeah. Very strong.
It's its own language.
Get lost in it.
Yeah.
Its own language. Exactly. I think God, obviously, He created music. And I can't wait to get to heaven, because I said, yeah, I'll be playing up there for sure. Having a good time.
Even the rocks and the flowers will be playing.
Oh, absolutely.
So that's wonderful. So that was in you, and it's something that you can connect with your wife, because she's a Navajo, and they are also known for this music. Your world went in part because of your mother seeing something in you. At the beginning, you were talking about how she signed you up for something in a very, we'll call it a stealth way, and so it was necessary so that you could fulfill what you were destined to do, which was all of these art forms, and all of those art forms, as we've always seen God do, are a large part of how He speaks to us, aren't they?
Yeah. Yeah, I would say too with my mother. By the way, what I think is really good is my mother, a gift from God in that way. She saw something in me. I used to sing at home. I'd sing to Donny Osmond. Oh, okay, I'm not a square, but I was listening to Donny Osmond, and she would hear me singing. And she'd come into the room and say, "Are you singing?" I said, no, I didn't want to admit that. I was too shy, you know what I mean?
Yes.
But as time went on...
That self-conscious stage where we don't know how to handle the attention, even in the best, right?
Yeah, I was singing Sweet and Innocent by Donny Osmond. So, all of a sudden, things changed. My sister and I would perform for my parents, especially me. And I would do songs, and I remember seeing my very first musical that I ever saw was West Side Story. There were these musicians that I used to travel around with. Their names were Ed and Donna Stockton. Ed and Donna Stockton. They live in Pittsburgh, by the way. Hello there, Ed and Donna.
Hi there.
But Donna Stockton took me aside and said, you need to see this musical. And I'm thinking, you're a kid that just is like, I don't want to watch any musical. She put me in front of the TV. I watched this West Side Story. It took me to a whole different place.
Wow.
And then funny thing is, I just loved it. I fell in love with it. I love the musical, the music, the dancing, everything. And what's funny is years later, it was when I was 20, I actually was in West Side Story. I ended up becoming a character in West Side Story, and I got to play a jet.
Oh,
And I
that's
just
amazing.
was so excited. Yeah, and so what I'm saying is that my mother saw, and Donna Stockton saw something in me, okay, that knew that I could do something with that. And, what we need to be is aware with our children. I say this to parents. Look at their gifts, look at their talents, see how that you can get them excited about something in them, because you never know what'll transpire years later. It's amazing, and it becomes an encouragement in their dark times. That's why I say any of this stuff, like we were talking about before, it pulls you out of that. You go, well, let's try this, and God will present. He'll at least put it in your path, and you walk right into that. Okay, and all of a sudden you'll be like, whoa, this just made me happy. This made me. It just did something for me, and took me out of that dark place. All I'm saying is walking into His light. The Lord uses it. That is true. He does use it, and I've seen it time and time again. So I encourage parents, do that with your children as well, because it'll really help them later in life. It says, train up a child in the way he should go, and when he's old, he will not depart from it. So something to remember.
Right, and your mother was a part of doing that, and you're right about that. So this specific thing that you're talking about that you experienced firsthand is being trained up. First of all, you had a home that was safe, and what I can see from that now is that obviously it wouldn't have been perfect, and then you went out trying to create your own life, doing whatever you wanted, regardless of God, for a while, to some degree. It's kind of the true north that you draw back to that gets you through things.
Exactly.
And that keeps you aware of His presence. So in some way, always in a relationship with Him, keeping you on a road. I mean, you even had a road in the Marines that it sounds like it was a very positive experience for you because of those Christian values that you could apply. And always there just managed to be somebody that was a source of encouragement, which shows God's hand in your life, but it also shows that we can do that for others. We can reach out looking for those people, but we also can be that person. There are many lessons in this. And you're talking about giving your children encouragement, seeing their strengths.
Right. That's exactly it. Also have a favorite verse. And this one has always guided me. And I even wrote a song called On the Wings of Love related to it. And I don't have that song in front of me. But what I do have is that memory verse that it came from. And that is Isaiah chapter 40. And I'm sure you're going to be like, yes, I know what this is.
I love
but
this.
I start with 28. Do you know, have you not heard? The Lord is the everlasting God, the creator of the ends of the earth. He will not grow tired or weary, and his understanding no one can fathom. He gives strength to the weary and increases the power of the weak. Even youths grow tired and weary, and young men stumble and fall. But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint.
Hallelujah.
And the only reason I really got encouraged by that is because I have seen an eagle fly.
Where did you see that? That's
in Colorado.
In Colorado. What a beautiful sight.
In the Rockies, I saw an eagle flying, and I thought of that verse and just how he just soared. And just without any effort, just stayed up there. He didn't have to beat his wings or nothing. The wind just held him up there.
So you're saying that you saw this and you could
beautiful.
See how God was what made that eagle soar effortlessly?
Mm-hmm. Effortlessly, yeah. That was awesome.
And I think you were saying earlier, no one's life is an easy walk.
No. You stumble and fall and grow weary.
You stumble,
Right?
fall, and grow weary. Even youths
Yes.
shall be exhausted. Even young men give up. And so there's a difference for those who wait on the Lord. I think my one last question for you, Craig, and
Yeah,
this is
go
an
ahead.
on-the-spot question. What does it look like in your life to wait on the Lord? What can you say to somebody who doesn't get that verse or that part of that verse about how you do that?
Yeah. I would say it's something that I've had to learn through life. You can't just say, "Oh, yeah, I'll know how to wait on the Lord." We are impatient because we're human. So everything's, timed, right? Everything is, you've got to get this done in this amount of time,
Mm-hmm.
And you feel like when you pray, you feel like God ought to do instantaneous, give it to you right now. And you don't learn the waiting part. Okay. I think as children, we had that problem. When we tell our parents, "Oh, come on," well, we were just having Christmas, right? Kids can't wait for their gifts.
Right.
They got to shake them and listen.
When will my birthday come? It just won't come.
Yeah, no patience as children. We don't have that. But, and we still don't have it as we get older. We have to learn patience. It's kind of one of those things, learning to wait on the Lord. You're starting to realize, okay, the Lord's timing is not our timing. And He isn't bound by time. They said 1,000 years is like a day to Him. So when you think that way, the Lord's got your back. He's there. He's going to come through. That's, and the way you learn is through experiences in life. I would tell you that I've learned throughout my life, I've seen Him come through. Okay. Well, then I can draw on that experience and say, you know what? He came through then. I may just have to wait on Him.
He did.
And see what happens.
He did. He always does. And usually it's way better than it might have been for the waiting. Thank you for sharing that. And thank you for reading this. And it's really been a pleasure learning a little bit more about your story. And I look forward to more of it, Craig. And also when your lovely wife will join and I can have you both together, that would be nice too. I want to hear about her Navajo experiences. I think the whole audience wants to hear about that.
So, yeah, she has wonderful stories that she tells people.
Yes.
And she knows the language fluently. She's very fluent in Navajo.
I'm grateful that she does.
And she's been trying to teach me, and I got to tell you, it's a hard language.
Not easy being a code talker. Not easy.
No, I learned so much more about code talk. And I was a Marine, and we heard about them. But I learned so much more of what she says that language is. It's that they actually use words to describe something. And beautiful. Wait, yeah, we're going to have to get her on because she talks about the words for God and the amazing things that they say. And she'll sing these hymns in Navajo while we're in church. I'm just sitting there going, wow, that's so awesome.
It's just layers of things that wouldn't occur to us because our structure is different. So thank you for that, Craig. It's been really great. And so what I'd like to do now is, besides thanking you for being here, I want to bless us all with the words from the book of Numbers, chapter 6, starting at verse 24. May the Lord bless and keep you. May the Lord make His face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May the Lord lift up the light of His countenance upon you and give you His peace. And so why are we here? We're here to express our love for Jesus, invite people to Him, have a relationship with Him, and then we do as the Bible said. And so go and make disciples in the mighty name of Jesus. This is Carrie Coe saying, until next time.
Be sure to share the podcast on your favorite social media channel.